There are many things to love about Chrono Trigger. The art style by Dragon Ball creator Akira Toriyama. It's probably why the main character looks so much like Gohan. The awesome battle system, the charismatic characters, and the fact that you can change the ending based on the decision you make. But one thing I don't hear anyone talk about is the actual story of the game. Well, that's what we're going to be doing today. So the game begins with our main character Chrono being woken up by his mom, and she tells him to behave himself at the Millennium Mall. So Chrono makes his way to the Millennium Fair, which only occurs every millennium for some reason. And there's a lot to do at the Millennium Fair, like gambling, beating up a robot, cultural appropriation, and of course... Anyway, Chrono accidentally bumps into a girl, probably because of all the beer he drank. Her name is Marley, and her and Chrono basically start to party together and eventually go to an exhibition that Chrono's friend Luca is showing. And it's a teleporter, and of course Chrono is the first to test it out, and surprisingly, it works. Flawlessly, in fact. Then Marley goes in, and everything goes haywire. Due to her pendant, she was transported through time, so Chrono jumps in after her without hesitation. Chrono gets sent back to 600 AD, and he goes to the castle and gets recognized by the queen immediately, who it turns out is actually Marley. The real queen got kidnapped, but because Marley looks so much like her, they assumed it was her. So, problem solved, I guess. Then Luca shows up out of nowhere and explains that Marley is the descendant of the queen, and that's why they look so similar. But then Marley is blinked out of existence because history was changed, and now Chrono needs to find the real queen and set history back on track, or else Marley is... So Chrono and Luca head to the cathedral filled with monsters and get jumped until this anthropomorphic frog saves them and decides to join them on their journey, even though Luca is racist against frogs? Anyway, they manage to find the real queen and defeat the alien from Aliens. So everything is cheeky-breeky. They bring the real queen back, Marl is brought back to life, and a justice system is established in the kingdom. Then Frog is depressed for some reason, even though he saved the queen, and he even leaves the party. Anyway, the party manages to go back to 1000 AD, and Chrono instantly gets arrested for kidnapping the princess, aka Marl, and put on trial. And the way they judge you is by reevaluating your behavior at the fair. Were you an asshole and steal this old man's food, or were you a good guy and help this little girl find her cat? But the outcome doesn't really matter since you get thrown into prison, regardless of what you do. And now you're scheduled to be executed, mostly because the Chancellor hates Chrono for absolutely no reason. The man's hating for the love of the game. So obviously it's time for a prison break. So Chrono runs rampant, and Luca shows up to try and break him out. But before they can break out, they have to fight this tank that's shaped like a dragon. And they reunite with Marl, hop onto a random time portal, and escape the guards. They leave the portal only to find out that it's a post-apocalypse, like it's straight up Mad Max out there. The party looks around like, what the hell? So no surprise, this place sucks. And everybody is starving and everything is in ruins, and let's just say, it sucks. Welcome to the future, boys and girls. The girl finds out that the apocalypse happened due to something called Lavos, so the squad is like... But the door is blocked, and instead they find a busted-up robot that Luca manages to fix, and now this walking Terminator is on our side. So Robo leads them to a power-up generator so they could go back home, but they get jumped by Robo's best of friendos, who call him Defective. So Chrono pulls up and gets revenge for Robo, but luckily we've got a Luca, and Robo is up and running in no time. The group goes into a teleporter and gets thrown to the end of time and meets this old dude who looks like he's 2 days away from retirement. This old dude tells them how the teleporter works and tells them to go beat up his Moogle, and this somehow gives them magical powers. Anyway, the group manages to go back to 1000 AD and pop out of a monster's closet. Like, imagine you're eating dinner and 3 anime weirdos and a robot pop out your closet. This is an island filled with nothing but monsters who lost a war to the humans in 600 AD. So the group explores and experiences monster racism, only to find a cult worshipping a dude named Magus, who apparently released Lavos in 600 AD. So the group manages to get back to human civilization, somehow. Eventually, after some shenanigans, the group manages to go back to 600 AD, and it's not looking good for the humans because they're being attacked by monsters, and they have to defend this bridge, and they're getting their ass beat by this random-ass zombie. And so the group decides to fight for them, and bing bada boom, we kill the skeleton, and everybody's happy. But the humans are still being overrun by monsters, so Chrono goes to recruit Frog to try to help and slap Magus in the face. But Frog refuses because he feels worthless, so Chrono hears a tale of this legendary Masamune, basically a big-ass magic sword, and tries to get it, but is being guarded by these freaking goblin children. And let me tell you, these kids ain't easy to fight, and in the middle of the fight, they just decide to fuse together, and it just makes me wanna Anyway, the sword is broken, so Frog refuses to join, but Chrono takes the sword to Malchior, who is this old blacksmith, a man from the beginning of the game, who says that he needs a special stone to fix the blade, but that it no longer exists. So you know what that means. So we take a portal and travel all the way back to 65 million BC just for a stone. Outrageous. And you know what's even more outrageous? That we immediately get jumped by freaking dinosaurs. But we get saved by Ayla, aka the hottest woman alive. I mean, she straight up does the Yaruichi pose 24/7. Send help, please. And as soon as she meets Chrono, she immediately presses him against the wall. And you know what? She even throws this man a party. And it turns out that Ayla has a stone we need, so she challenges Chrono to a drinking contest, which Chrono wins, and they party like all night long. I don't know what to tell you, but this is straight up the perfect woman. But in the middle of the night, we get robbed by dinosaurs, so now there's no way back to our time. Bro, like, imagine you're sleeping and you get your pockets ran by a dinosaur. So anyway, Ayla decides to join the party. We beat up some dinosaurs and make it back to Malchior, who reforges the Masamune. So we travel back to Frog and we get to see his tragic backstory. Back in the days, Frog was a lame-ass dude named Glenn who went on adventures with a dude named Cyrus, and everything was hunky-dory until they ran into Magus, who basically does this to Cyrus. And instead of murderizing Glenn, Magus turns him into a frog because he's a petty bitch. So obviously Frog wants revenge and joins Chrono, and Chrono's like, yo, here's your sword. And so Frog goes off and cuts a mountain in half on the road to Magus's big-ass Dracula-ass castle. But before we can fight Magus, we gotta get through his second-in-command and his Home Alone-ass booby traps. Anyway, we find Magus in the basement doing some freaky-deaky summoning ritual for Lavos, so the group is like, and fight Magus, but Lavos pops up and hurls the group through time. And now we're back in dinosaur times, and we go right to Ayla, who wants to eat Frog. But the war between dinos and humans is wrapping up with the reptiles burning a village, so Ayla is like... The group then storms the castle and confront the Dino King and his big-ass 30-foot-tall T-Rex. So the group is like... After defeating him, freaking Lavos falls from space because he was the meteor that wiped out the dinosaurs. You dick. And anyway, he quickly buries on the ground. The group then travels through the Ice Age, which, no surprise, sucks. But certain humans know magic and build a society in the sky called Zeal. In the city, the group meets an angsty kid named Janus, who's kind of an asshole because, spoilers, he's actually a young Magus. Anyway, the group meets the three old dudes that they met earlier on their journeys, as they were the ones who created this whole civilization, and it turns out that the Queen of Zeal, also called Zeal, I know, it's not confusing at all, wants to use Lavos to become immortal. Oh, and Magus is here too, whispering in the Queen's ear. Now, obviously, we gotta stop the Queen from meddling with Lavos, so we confront her, but Magus's hate Nash shows up and badmouths us to the Queen, who summons a monster to fight us. We beat it up, but get thrown to prison regardless. Chrono and the gang get rescued by Queen Zeal's daughter, but we get caught by Magus, who spares our lives, but promptly kicks Chrono back into the portal and makes Shala seal it so we can't come back. The group, not sure what to do, go back to the Terminator future because there were doors with the Zeal symbol there. It turns out that one of the wise men of Zeal was here named Balthazar, and behind one of the sealed doors we find the Epoch, which is basically a flying time machine. I go back to the Ice Age and meet the non-magical humans who are basically slaves to the people of Zeal. Anyway, the group head to this big-ass floating rock and free Malchior, who was encased in ice. He basically gives some exposition that if the Queen activates the Mammoth Machine, it's basically doomsday. And then Shala shows up but immediately gets kidnapped by the Queen's henchmen. So Malchior gives Chrono a red knife, which is basically a mini version of the Masamune. Chrono then heads to the Ocean Palace and through many trials and tribulations finds the Queen and her weird cult. But it's too late as she activates the Mammoth Machine, so Chrono yeets the knife at it to destroy it, but it's too late as Lavos finally shows his ugly bug face. And I'm not gonna lie, the group gets annihilated. Then Magus shows up and thinks he's so damn cool, but gets folded instantly. But as the group is about to be incinerated, Chrono stands up and takes the attack head-on, only to be completely disintegrated. Then Lavos starts shooting random blasts everywhere and hits Zeal, causing it to plummet to the ground, and the group survives, minus Chrono, and learns that the Zeal survivors and the regular humans now live together, but then this bastard Dalton Queen Zeal's second-in-command tries to be king of the survivors, so we kill him. Anyway, Magus shows back up, and you get a choice to spare him or fucking seek his vengeance. This choice changes the story, and basically, if you want another party member, you can have Magus. Or, and now that we have a time machine, it's time to go do some side quests, like saving Luca's mom's legs, meeting Cyrus's ghost, getting Robo-Girlfriend, and reviving Chrono. Now, all of these are optional, but just know that the ending does change if you complete them.